They built a luxury resort on my land. Bulldozers tore through the garden I planted for my late wife, and when I ran out to stop them, the HOA president waved fake papers in my face and called the cops on me. They cut down the dogwood tree we planted for our anniversary, and she actually smirked while they did it. They thought I'd roll over. They thought an old veteran like me would just take it. But they didn't know who they were dealing with. For 20 years, this land was my peace. 20 acres of woods my father bought after the war, the kind of quiet place where you can hear your own heartbeat. My wife Sarah and I built a small house here, planted that dogwood out back. When she passed, that tree became everything: our anniversary, our promise, our memory. I kept it watered, pruned alive. It was her. So, when I came home from the VA that morning and saw heavy machinery tearing up the soil, my first thought wasn't anger. It was disbelief. I parked the truck, stepped into the dirt, and shouted at the foreman, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" He didn't even look scared. "New clubhouse, old-timer. Take it up with the HOA." That word HOA made my stomach turn. They'd built their little suburban development just beyond my back fence about 10 years ago. I was never part of it, never wanted to be. My land was older, separate, grandfathered long before their covenants existed. Then she arrived, Karen Whitmore. Late 40s, expensive yoga pants, perfect teeth. The kind of woman who never worked a day outdoors but strutted like she owned the ground. She stepped out of her spotless white SUV with a clipboard and a smile sharp enough to draw blood. "Mr. Tiller, there seems to be some confusion about our new community project." Confusion? I pointed at the iron stake, half buried in weeds. "That's my property line. You're 100 yards over it." She gave a little laugh like she was humoring a child. "Those old markers are obsolete. According to the updated survey, this area's common property now. We're building a resort-style clubhouse and pool. It's going to be wonderful for everyone's property values." For a second, my throat closed. That bulldozer was heading straight for Sarah's tree. I tried to speak, but all that came out was, "You can't touch that tree." Touch. Her smile vanished for a breath, then came back twice as fake. "I'm sorry for whatever personal attachment you may have, but this is progress." Progress. That word still makes me sick. I went inside, hands shaking, pulled the old file box from the closet, my father's papers. I had the original deed, county plats, survey maps, proofwritten in black and white. I spent all night copying everything, sent certified letters to the HOA demanding they stop work immediately. I thought the truth would fix this. 3 days later, I got a letter back. A cease and desist. They accused me of trespassing on their property, of harassing their contractors. When I looked out my window, the dogwood tree was gone, nothing left but splinters and mud. That was the moment something inside me went cold. They'd crossed a line they couldn't uncross. I wasn't angry anymore, I was focused. Next morning, I drove to the county records office with every document I owned. The clerk barely looked up as she typed my parcel number. Then she frowned, turned the monitor toward me. "Looks like this section was annexed into Harrison Woods Landing HOA 2 years ago," she said. "Filed as abandoned property." I told her that was impossible. I'd been paying taxes here for decades. She shrugged. "Paperwork says notice was undeliverable." That's how they did it. Bureaucratic theft. A few signatures, a stamp, and suddenly I was a ghost on my own land. Driving home, I passed the new development. Neighbors I'd helped over the years avoided my eyes. One man said quietly at the hardware store, "Sorry, Jack, but that new clubhouse adds 50 grand to our property values." That cut deeper than I expected. It wasn't just the land they'd taken, it was my sanity, my place in the world. I started to wonder if maybe I was wrong. Maybe I'd misunderstood something. For a week, I just sat there. Took an old folding chair, planted it 50 feet from their construction site, and watched. From sunrise to sunset, I sat in silence watching them pour concrete where my wife's tree once stood. They laughed, smoked, ignored me. And I realized this wasn't a mistake. They weren't confused. They knew exactly what they were doing. So I stopped playing their game. I opened the file box again, digging deeper than before. And there it was, an envelope I hadn't touched in 30 years. The paper was yellowed, the heading read, "Mineral Rights and Surface Estate Agreement." My father had been a geologist, and he'd bought not just the surface land but everything beneath it rights in perpetuity. I didn't just own the dirt. I owned the foundation they were building on. That night, for the first time in months, I smiled. The next morning I made calls. I found a title specialist downtown, an old man who spent hours combing through the documents. When he finally looked up, he said, "Mr. Tiller, they built a house of cards on your bedrock. You own the engine under their car." I paid him in cash and left feeling 10 feet tall. Step 2. I formed Dogwood Properties, LLC. Quiet, clean, untraceable. I transferred all mineral and surface rights into it. No more emotional veteran. From now on, they were dealing with a corporation. Corporations don't get angry. They file. Through my lawyer, David Chen. A sharp, calm man, I sent a letter to the HOA. We offered to lease them the land for $100 a year. A chance to make it right. I knew Karen wouldn't take it. Her ego wouldn't let her. She didn't respond, so we went hunting. Turned out the HOA didn't even own their own office. They were renting a small commercial building from an out-of-state investor, one who was 3 months behind on payments. Through Dogwood Properties, we bought it. Cash. Overnight. The Harrison Woods Landing HOA was now operating on my property. Every time Karen walked into her precious office, she was trespassing. That small victory gave me energy again. Then, my old Navy buddy Grinder, a geotech engineer, called. He'd analyzed the soil near the resort. Jack, he said they built it over an old water main, and the foundation's too shallow. One frost and the whole thing's gonna crack like an eggshell. That was gold. We filed a formal notice to the county building department and the HOA's insurance company. Within days, construction froze. Inspectors showed up. Neighbors whispered. Karen panicked and then went lower than I ever thought she could. A week later, Adult Protective Services came knocking. Someone anonymous, of course, had reported that I was mentally unstable. They asked if I could still handle my finances if I was safe living alone. Karen wanted to destroy not just my property, but my credibility. I kept calm, answered their questions, even offered them coffee. When they left, one agent muttered, "You seem more put together than most people I meet." I smiled. "You should meet my HOA." Then came the invitation, a glossy flyer in my mailbox. Grand opening gala of the Harrison Woods Summit Club. 2 weeks away. She was throwing a party for an illegal building on stolen land. I decided to give her a show she'd never forget. The night of the gala, I didn't wear a suit. I wore my old dress blues. The uniform still fit. The medals caught the light just right. David Chen picked me up, and behind us came 2 licensed surveyors with official equipment and a local reporter I'd quietly tipped off. The place was packed. Champagne string lights, fake smiles. Karen stood at the podium glowing under the spotlights, basking in her stolen glory. I stayed near the back beside the glass wall overlooking the woods that used to be mine. When she tapped her glass for attention, the room hushed. "Welcome, friends and neighbors," she said, voice dripping with pride. When they said this couldn't be done, I proved them wrong. We are a community that doesn't let anyone stand in our way. That was my cue. Headlights swept across the room as a county inspector entered. He walked straight to the podium, holding a bright red notice. "Ma'am, this event is over. This facility is under code enforcement investigation. Your occupancy permit is revoked." The silence was electric. Karen's face drained of color. "This is harassment," she shouted. "That man," she pointed at me trembling, "he's behind this." David stepped forward, calm as ever. "Actually, he said this man is the rightful owner." He clicked his laptop and the projector behind her lit up. On one side, the original 1958 plat map with my father's signature. On the other, the forged HOA survey red lines slashed through like graffiti. Gasps filled the room. The 2 surveyors unrolled their map on the floor. "This building," one of them said, "sits entirely on private land, never legally transferred." Then, David hit play on the final exhibit, a recording of Karen's own voice caught during a meeting. "I don't care what his old papers say. Just bulldoze it. We have the county on our side." You could hear the collective inhale. Then someone shouted, "You tore up his wife's garden." Another voice, "You lied to us." The crowd turned. The mayor, the police chief, even the camera crew stepped back from her like she was contagious. Karen tried to speak, but no sound came out. Her hands shook. Finally, she dropped the microphone and stormed off her heels, clicking like gunshots. That was the moment it ended. The next morning, the news headline read, HOA Resort halted amid land theft allegations. Karen resigned within a week. The county voided the survey. Their insurance pulled coverage. The rest of the board begged for a settlement. Through Dogwood Properties, I agreed on my terms. They would finish the resort properly, fix the foundation, meet every safety code, and then hand it over to me. Karen's dream resort became my property built with her arrogance and my patience. She moved out quietly a month later. No one waved goodbye. And me, I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. I just stood where my wife's tree once grew. The ground still scarred and whispered, "We did it, Sarah." Sometimes justice isn't about winning. It's about making sure they never do it to anyone else again.